Am I enjoying Salt and Sanctuary? I am in love with this game. The way that probably most people are describing this game is that this is essentially a side-scroller Souls game, like a Dark Souls but a side-scroller. That is a pretty accurate way of describing this game actually. Salt and Sanctuary starts with a character creation, and it's very quickly to tell you that you are not prepared to face this world. You must die over and over in order to overcome the odds. You kill enemies and you get salt, which is this game's version of Souls, and you also get gold. So instead of spending your souls to buy weapons and stuff, you actually have a different currency. You catch weapons, you have different items with descriptions that kind of tell a story about the world, but then again, the game itself also is a bit more upfront with the story and the world's lore. There's a lot to discover within the item descriptions and some character dialogue that is not right up in your face and will appeal to Souls fans and that type of storytelling, but it's also not super obscure that it forces you to look for that stuff in order to understand what's going on. You have a light attack and a heavy attack just like a Souls game, and with the combination of those two, you can do different combos. Which brings me to my very first criticism. I was expecting, to change a weapon and have a completely different set of combos, but it turns out that most combos are pretty similar in between weapons. A dagger or a sword will have very similar combos to an axe, for instance. Though if you pick up a polearm or a spear, it will have a different set of combos. But then again, that type of weapon will always have the same type of combos, regardless of which weapon you pick up. They'll have different stats, different range, possibly different scaling with strength and dexterity and whatever attributes you're going for, but their combos will be the same. Now, one of the things that Souls players come back to these games for is to try different builds and try different weapons, and I guess the incentive in this game isn't as big as that, but there's still an incentive to do it, as you still have magic, you have strength focused builds, you have heavy armor, you have light armor. There's still enough here for the game to have some replay value, just not as much as your typical Dark Souls. Also, the leveling up system works a bit differently. Instead of putting points into wherever stat you want, you follow this talent tree. And the talent tree does put points into dexterity and endurance and willpower, as a traditional Souls game would, but if you're following a dexterity build, it might not be the easiest thing to invest in magic all of a sudden, which in a Souls game you could just actually spend the points wherever you wanted. Here you kind of have to follow a path, and there are a lot of paths you can follow. There are a ton of builds you can do in this game. You can see from this talent tree, it's pretty massive, but you don't have as much freedom as you would in a Souls title, which could be a good thing actually. I think this game is a lot clearer in allowing you to understand the game itself. I remember the first time I played a Souls, and it was really tough to get into. I didn't really understand what was going on. I was putting points in random stuff, and Salt and Sanctuary is a lot more clear about that stuff. There's still a lot of mystery, a lot of items that you pick up and you don't actually know what you must use them for, and you go to certain places and you try to use them in certain ways, so that sort of trial and error, that mystery that the Souls games are known for, it's still there, but it's a lot better in welcoming new players. And I think the art style is also going to attract a different crowd. The Souls games are a bit more grounded in reality, a bit more dark, and a lot of people like that art style, but it's not very visually appealing. It's not pretty on the eyes. It's rough, and that's a good thing for those games. But this is going to appeal to a different sort of crowd, artistically speaking at least, which could be an awesome thing. The last criticism I have about this game is the co-op and PvP. There is couch co-op only, no networking, and it works kind of weird. You plug in your second controller and you log in with an account, and if that account does not have a character, you cannot join in the game, which means that if you just have a random friend over at your place, then you'll either have to buy a second copy of that game or share the game by buying it on your PlayStation's main account, but then you also have to create a character so your friend can play with you. It's a weird system. I don't really know how you would get around this because you need a character to play, and I don't know if giving you a template would be good. Probably would. Give me a template of a knight or a thief, which would be level appropriate to the host of the game. Maybe that's an easier way to do couch co-op. Anyway, this is kind of weird, and not everyone is going to be able to play couch co-op from the get-go. My current setup doesn't allow me to because my account is not set as my main PlayStation account, so I cannot share the game with other accounts on my PlayStation, which means I would have to buy the game a second time just to play co-op in case a friend comes over. It's a very weird system. Other than that, I am in love with the game. It's got replay value, it's scratching that itch. I'm super looking forward to Dark Souls 3, and this is different. This is creative and familiar enough to where I picked it up, recognized immediately what it was, and it still felt very, very fresh. That said, this has been a very one-sided conversation. I would like to hear your thoughts on what you've seen of Salt and Sanctuary so far. What do you think about the game? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, click that like button. It helps me out a lot, and subscribe if you're new to the channel, because we got a ton of gaming goodness waiting for you. I've been Globku. Thank you very much for watching. Boy.